Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to another video. So the final act, Act 4, has come out. The footage you're watching right now is, I'm pretty sure, the last time the Mad King spawned in Lion's Arch. I was so scared of that I'd missed it because he also appeared about 25 minutes too late, I believe. So I was hanging around in Lion's Arch right at the end and everyone was saying, oh no, it's nearly the end, it's nearly the end of the event. And I was suddenly really scared that I'd actually missed footage of it. But finally I decided to do it. I could have filmed it the first time the event started on that very beginning, but I never did because I missed the start because I was still doing the Mad King's dungeon from Act 3, which closed at the start of Act 4. So that's the first thing that changed with Act 4. There's really not too much to say on it, to be perfectly frank. But the big lion statue that was slowly getting worse and worse through Act 1 and 2, that broke in Act 3 and allowed us access to the Mad King fight, was finally completely gone in Act 4. The Dermot Priory, you could see a couple of NPCs were now stood around it and they seem to have paved it over. It looked... And this is probably just because the game was teleporting me off, but it looked like one of those things I really wanted to jump up and stand on, particularly during the Mad King event, but you can't. When you go up to it, you walk against it and it will teleport you off in another direction, so you can get to it at all. It still says Welcome to Madness in New Crichton around it, and I guess when Halloween ends, the statue will just reappear there. Someone did suggest that they could have some guys just rebuilding the statue, which I think would be quite nice, but I reckon Lion's Arch will just revert back to normal. So by the time this video goes out, I'm pretty sure Mad King won't be coming anymore. But this was the final event. This was very, very similar to how it ended in Guild Wars 1. And it is really curious to me, actually, the reaction people had from this finale compared to the finale in the first game. Because the first time, it was this really impressive thing and everyone really liked it. It was the highlight, kind of, for the first few years until people got bored of it. It was the highlight of the whole festival. It was the bit that everyone really enjoyed and it was super unique. But actually, with Guild Wars 2, it's been funny because I think a lot of people were kind of underwhelmed. It's essentially the same thing, but somehow it pales in comparison to the quality of the content that they added in the other acts. And what was originally in the first game the real highlight, now, when you look at it in context of the dungeon that they added, the clock tower and all of that, it's kind of a very simple, oh, use a couple of emotes and you're done situation. So that's a curious look to see how the game as a whole has evolved to surpass what was once a highlight from the first one. At least in my eyes, that is kind of how things have changed. And I find that to be a very curious difference. First of all, in the footage, you're just going to be seeing me following the Mad King around before the event actually begun. So what happened was, when Act 4 went live, for every hour Mad King would come to Lion's Arch and he would play his game Mad King Says, which you will have participated a little bit in already if you did the Inquisition minigame or if you did the mini-dungeon from Act 3. You already will have seen a little bit of this going on. But he's going to play that again during Act 4, about every hour in Lion's Arch. And in the meantime, while that's going on, he's just going to walk around Lion's Arch, around that kind of central area, patrolling around, telling jokes. Jokes are a big part of this character. We didn't really see much of it in Halloween. The most jokes that I heard, really, came from people in Costume Brawl wearing the Mad King's costume, where one of the skills is a joke. And I heard those like a million times, and I'm absolutely sick of all of them now. Except the one that's, what goes ha 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 plop? A man laughing his head off. I love that one. But in any case, he's actually telling jokes, new jokes, kind of funny jokes. A lot of them are to do with the races of Tyria, which I find to be quite a funny spin. A lot of them are Sylvari jokes, I think. They're just puns on trees and wood and sap and growing and stuff, and he just constantly goes on about it. But you see that kind of stuff. He's very racist to all the races in Tyria. It's quite funny and lighthearted. He'll walk around doing that, but every hour he's going to spawn up near the statue, and he's going to tell everyone to play Mad King Says. That meta event in the top right-hand corner will actually become a more active thing, and from here he'll stand around just as he did in the first game and say, right, I'm going to tell you to do something. If I say Mad King Says first, then you do the respective emote. If I don't say Mad King Says, don't do the emote. And if you fail on either of those, then he'll basically kill you. Do a load of damage and then you'll res back up. And you can actually get, I believe, a unique reward if you complete this entire event, because he's going to do this several times without ever messing up. I almost had it, and you'll see in the footage, I almost had it too, but I messed up on the surprised emote. I swear I typed /surprised, but it just wasn't working. I don't know, so I messed out one bit up, which was annoying, but in general it's very easy. In fact, it's easier than it was in the first game, and I don't know why Arenanet did that. He very rarely doesn't say Mad King Says. He nearly always says, Mad King Says, do this, and I only saw it in the footage at least, and the first time I did the event, I only saw him not say it once. The second time I did the event, he always said Mad King Says, and the time in the footage here, he only didn't say it. Oh, these negatives are really weirding me out. He only didn't say it once here as well. Why did they make it so easy? That's the funniest bit of this, when people mess up and they do it even even when he didn't say Mad King says. And they make it so blatant as well, because there's always Mad King says on the first line of dialogue, and because now it's voice acted, you have to wait and listen to it, and then the next line comes with what you're supposed to do. It's so easy to tell, but in any case, I don't think it was supposed to be hard. It's quite fun. The only other slight change is that he'll actually teleport around a little bit, and you'll want to be close to him, but I'm pretty sure you'll hear his voice anyway. There's not much to say past that. You will complete the event, you'll get participation. Yes, it's scaled to your level, as all events are, so don't expect to go there on a level 1 and get tons and tons of experience, but you'll get karma, you'll get silver for it. I think the other reward kind of scales depending on your participation. If you didn't do anything, not only will you have been running around Lion's Arch just randomly dying all over the place, but you'll get like 1 piece of candy corn, I think, just for being in the vicinity of him, and then the more times you're successful, the more trick-or-treat bags you get. It ends with him running off and spawning a big chest, which you can open for a hat, a witch's hat, which is quite cool. It's very similar to the witch's hat from the witch's costume, but obviously if you don't want to buy a costume, then that's good. And that's kind of funny to me as well, because in the first game, that was always my favourite Halloween hat, and I'd missed it that year, so this will probably be your only chance to get that bit of headgear too. And yeah, so congratulations to everyone who got it, I suppose. This video's out a bit late for that, but that's the footage in the background. That's the conclusion of Act 4, and I just wanted to kind of throw out my thoughts on Halloween in general and the state of Arenanet with their updates, because I was a little bit worried about Guild Wars 2 for a little while. Halloween's actually been quite good for me because I was playing the game a lot. I got to level 80, I kind of rushed through an awful lot of stuff. I was doing every single daily, I had all the monthlies done, I was going and going and going, and a legendary looked too far off to me. And honestly, I did start wondering, what do I really fancy doing? And I'm not saying that I never had anything to do. I think there is a lot to do at the end of Guild Wars 2, and my opinion's kind of changed a little bit since Halloween, which I'll talk about in a bit, but I was at kind of a position where I had to make an effort to know what I wanted to do in Guild Wars. I had to make an effort to kind of log on, and that was a bit worrying to me. I did start to really sympathise and think, oh, well, I can understand why people are worried about Guild Wars 2's endgame. What am I kind of doing? I'm not motivated to go for these legendaries or any of this stuff, and I'm guessing there are an awful lot of people that were in the same boat. But now we've seen this Halloween update. Arenanet had put out some small patches, I suppose, as we ramped up to this, but no real new content. Halloween's now come out. We had all this Halloween stuff go out, the actual festival stuff, but at the same time, don't forget when the event came out, there's been a whole bunch of other things added in terms of achievements and new places to go in the game too. There has been an awful lot of new content added. This is about 3 months after the game's launched, and we can assume that some of what they've created for Halloween was created before the game even launched. They could have been preparing for Halloween before that, but if we give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they started working on Halloween as soon as the game launched, and now in 3 months they've managed to produce this much stuff, I'm actually now a lot more happy about the game's future. I think that if this is what the live team can do, don't forget the live team aren't even working on expansions. Those are other guys presumably in the company. This isn't detracting from any boxed expansions that they'll be working on. But if the live team can put out this quantity of content around this kind of speed, preferably 2 months, 2 to 3 months within that region, and they can keep pushing that out, there will be plenty to do. I am honestly surprised. I tend to be a lot more cynical than I think I come across in the videos. I tend to think, oh, they're not actually going to put out that much stuff. I was expecting kind of on par with Guild Wars 1's Halloween in the first year that they did it. A lot of people forget, and this is a point you have to remember, I think, for MMOs quite often, is that when you're comparing it to other MMOs that you may have played, you're probably comparing it to MMOs after years and years of development. When I look in particular, the best comparison for me would be to Guild Wars 1's Halloween. When I look at how little that was actually added there in that event, but everyone was so happy with back then because the MMO space was so different back then, and then compare that to Guild Wars 2, it really wouldn't have been that much, but they way overdid that. I think that they did 4 times as much. Each individual act that they put out there, I've said it in a previous video, really did have me occupied in game for ages and ages and ages, grinding away on certain things and having a lot of fun while I was doing it. I'm very impressed with what they did with Halloween. This could be them just putting their best foot forward, and it's very easy, I think, for them to then slink back and not put out enough content. But my general thoughts or hopes right now are that we're going to be seeing updates of this kind of caliber and this size going forward for Guild Wars 2, because the game's in a position where there was a lot of pre-hype. There was a lot of hype for the game before it came out. A lot of people were interested. They got in, they saw things that they might not have liked. A lot of us may have realised we like gear treadmills, or that we prefer more traditional MMO combat, we like aspects of the crafting, or whatever reason why people might have left the game. Now it's going to be very easy for it to kind of slump back. No MMO that people are paying for with a box for a very long time has been truly successful and grown since its launch, not in any kind of consistent capacity anyway. A lot of MMOs will release, they'll have big numbers, then they'll drop down to quite a low number of players that are consecutively playing the game, and then it will spike up every now and then when they do a box expansion. But to continue growing and not just keep having these smaller spikes is very very, very difficult, something we've not really seen. And I think that if they can keep going with this live content, that might be the key for this game actually doing something like that, or at least staying on the map, because they've got catching up to do. The competition out there for Guild Wars 2 with other MMOs right now is that they have years and years and years that they've built themselves off of, but they tend to be pretty slow with consistent updates. So if they can keep growing like this, then they might actually be able to catch up, because other people don't seem to invest as much as at least Arenanet did for this first update. I think it's too early for us to say that the game's going to be great and we're going to keep seeing these updates. So as I said, we've been hearing about this November thing that's coming up soon. There's some kind of big thing going on in November. We'll see. I don't expect it to be as large as Halloween, but I think how much content we get there in November will be a good indication for what we can expect consistently throughout the game's lifetime. They do seem to be quite smart about it. If you look at your monthly achievements right now, you can't get your 10 jugs of karma. They've added this brilliant system of getting karma through monthly, these jugs. It's really good. I'm now really motivated to do that. I really want it. But I look and it's question mark, question mark, question mark for 2 of the titles, just as it was for Halloween, or at least one of the titles in Halloween. So now I, as a player, am thinking, oh well, I want to keep my eye on this. I want to see what this new update is, even if it's only for the monthly, for the karma. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to be participating in the new content that they add. I'm going to get more involved in that. I'm going to get more excited about even more content that they add further down the line. So I'm expecting us to have some kind of November release, and then obviously there'll be Winter's Day, there'll be the Christmas thing in December too. That looks like they're kind of set, hopefully from now on, to have some kind of content expansion. There'll be patches to the game consistently. There's some kind of content going into the game once a month, and obviously that's just my speculation, and I would love to see how much really they're going to do with that, if they can achieve that. And if they really can, if we're seeing stuff as consistent as a Halloween thing, I'm really, really excited about the game and where it could go. As I say, before Halloween came out, I was beginning to think, oh, what should I really do? I was spending more time on my Let's Play characters, which are on other accounts, and doing different stuff like that, rather than focusing on any kind of end game goal for my main characters. But going through Halloween, now I'm far more invested. I'm more invested in the items I got through Halloween. I'm more invested in building my character up, and perhaps even working towards a legendary. I'm going to put out a video soon to do with a lot of items I think a lot of people aren't aware of, to do with the Mystic Forge. If you're sitting there thinking, oh, a legendary's million miles away, I really don't want to work on anything like that, and you can ask yourself this fundamental question and answer yes to, is cosmetic enough, then there could be some very interesting stuff here, I'll say that straight away, in the Mystic Forge that aren't legendaries. There's a lot of different skins and interesting things that you can get out of that without putting in too much effort even, which I'll be talking about later. But yeah, for content, I'm very impressed with Halloween. I'm a little bit worried that this is just them saying, oh, look at all of this stuff, we've got tons of it, and then they're not going to be able to have anything as substantial going forward, especially on a kind of a 1 month cycle, and even considering as well that they could have been working on Halloween before the game even came out. But if we are seeing stuff if we do keep seeing stuff on this scale going forward, then I will be very happy. I guess November will tell, and I'm probably going to reserve my judgment for how the live team's really doing till after Winter's Day. I'll see how the November update goes, and then how good they can make the Winter's Day update too. And then maybe they'll even plan something for January too. So yeah, guys, there you go. That's kind of my impressions on Halloween. I thought it was very good. I'm very happy to have done the coverage for it this year in the game, and hopefully there'll be some more Halloween stuff to talk about next year too. They did always update their festivals and add at least some new stuff in repeat years, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for watching. I hope you had a happy Halloween, both in-game and out, and I'll see you next time.